Federal agents took Sean Diddy Combs into custody. He's seen in this video entering the Park Hyatt Hotel in Midtown Manhattan with others when agents from Homeland Security Investigations approach and separate him. They place Combs under arrest and lead him out the front door in handcuffs. His lawyers.
This is Saturn, girl, and I'm so sick to my stomach right now. I have this little trash can right here in case I have to retch. And from that little intro, it should be very clear why. My stomach is churning like country crock because of this motherfucker right here. Yeah, him. Sean the Diddler Combs. I thought his name was Poop Daddy or something. Fool changes his name more than Prince. Apparently he's a musician, but I don't really know his music. I only remember him from the 90s. You know, the time when he used Biggie's death to advance his own career. Oh wait, he was that dude who tried to make a Sting song about stalkers into a posthumous Biggie tribute, huh? Say, do you think he's a Scorpio? But by now, I'm sure you know that he was arrested last week on some extremely serious and disgusting charges. In this brief little video, maybe I'll call it a videolet or a videolita, but we're going to look at Sean Poopy Combs' birth chart and see if we can glean any information about his life and his arrest. Now, a quick content warning. The Sean Combs allegations are pretty gross. So if you're triggered by sexual violence and coercion, I mean, who isn't? Then viewer discretion is advised. But who the fuck is Sean Comey Combs anyway? Well, I think loads of people have asked themselves the same question. Because motherfucker changes his name like he's in a witness protection program. I mean, he went from Sean Combs to Puff Daddy. Oops, I seriously thought it was Poop Daddy, but I may still call him that. It resonates with me, as you New Agers are so fond of saying. Despite being an actual father, he opted to drop the daddy and just be Puffy. Puffy? Maybe he's just on a diuretic. Then he started calling himself P Diddy, which sounds like a venereal disease to me. Then his fear of syllables made him drop the P and just go by Diddy. But he wasn't done with the names. Oh no! Back in 2017, he started calling himself Brother Love, probably because of how kind and caring and gentle he is, especially when he's dragging you down the floor of a hotel hallway by your hoodie. Then he leveled up his kindness game and told everyone just to call him Love. He's an intensive care bear, isn't he, folks? Anyway, Seamus Jebediah Combs was born in Harlem, New York in 1964. He grew up in a Catholic family and even attended a Catholic boys' school. I mean, you know what happens there, right? Diddy's father was an associate of the infamous gangster Frank Lucas and was found shot dead in his car after a drug deal gone wrong when little Diddy was just 2. From then on, he was raised by his mother and grandmother. Apparently, his mother worked 4 jobs just to support him. Apparently, he got the name Puffy from all of his huffing and puffing. You know, his terrible temper. Diddy Daddy ended up studying business administration at Howard University. But by then, he'd already started his entrepreneurial enterprises. It's around this time that he started hosting massive dance parties, and he ran a little shuttle service to and from the airport. In fact, it was as far back as 1990 that he became known for these wild parties, which may have been a prelude to his freak-off parties. Bo Diddley, or whatever, started Bad Boy Records, and in 1992, he met the iconic rapper, the late Biggie Smalls, and even produced a few tracks on his acclaimed 1994 album, Ready to Die. And of course, things took off from there. After Biggie's death, Puff Donkey started making his own music and skyrocketed to fame as a pop culture phenomenon, segueing into fashion, alcohol, TV, movies, and other commercial ventures. But before we say any more, let's take a look at his chart, shall we? Now, we don't have a birth time for him, so we just had to put 12 noon, and we don't know his ascendant, and therefore we don't know his houses. If we did, I could go over his transits and his progressions and his zodiacal releasing to get a lot more detailed information. But in Sugarcomb's honor, we're raw dogging it. First, he has Mars in Capricorn trine Pluto. Mars is violence and aggression, and Pluto is power and dominance. Mars in Capricorn on its own can be quite industrious. It's like a combination of ambition and effort. And trine Pluto can be the drive to achieve lofty goals. But it can also be abusive, as in hurting people to fulfill its own selfish desires. So it's no surprise that he's accused of both abuse and coercion. His sex trafficking charge alleges that he transported people across state lines for illegal sexual activity and against their will, like forcing them. Another indicator of an explosive temper is his Mars forming a square to Saturn in Taurus. Now, it's out of sign, right? But still, this is quite significant. These people typically have to work very hard in life. Nothing ever comes easy to them. Now we know Diddy Donkey is no stranger to hard work. And he's had unparalleled success with both money and fame. But Mars square Saturn can also have anger management issues. You see, Saturn tries to suppress Mars's tantrums, but they just build up steam behind the scenes and end up exploding even harder later. By now, I'm sure that most of us are familiar with the video of Poofy Doofy assaulting and dragging his ex-girlfriend Cassie Ventura across the floor of a hotel hallway when she was just trying to leave. Yeah, it's violent and it's horrible. And we can see that Pluto and Saturn stuff expressed through his need to control people through violence and with threats of violence. And how about this Scorpio Mercury? I bet it can further exacerbate conflicts because of the suspicious nature and even paranoia. It can also be very secretive, trying to hide its unsavory deeds and motives, as well as using manipulation to not get caught. Now, if you're looking at the chart with me, you're probably thinking, but Saturn girl, he's got this very happy Libra Venus conjunct Jupiter. I bet he's so cuddly and sweet. More like he'll threaten you for cuddles and sweets. Yeah, Venus rules Libra and is quite happy there for sure, which means she's very concerned with two things: her own pleasure and popularity. Libra Venus is very socially aware, as in social conventions and how best to conduct oneself in different situations. They're the kind of people who lose their shit if they see you drinking wine out of a paper cup. And yeah, Jupiter has to do with luck and abundance and all that good stuff. But he also blows things up and makes them bigger. That means Venus gets a more ravenous appetite for pleasure. When I see Venus conjunct Jupiter in a chart, my first thought is self-indulgence. Going to excess with food, sex, drinking, Fabergé eggs, whatever. I mean, this fool was known for wild parties before his Saturn return. And when you couple this tendency towards violence with a tendency towards hedonism, we have a recipe for abuse. The charges allege that Padre Poofy would have these elaborate sex parties that he called freak-offs, lasting days at a time, in which he would force sex workers and his own staff into potentially dangerous situations that would leave some of them injured and healing for days or even weeks at a time. Some of Puffalum's victims even reported that he would brandish firearms to intimidate them into doing what he wanted. And if you've ever watched that video of him assaulting his ex-girlfriend, which I don't recommend you do, it really made me upset. But you can see that sort of Plutonian coercion bleeding through. So he went from the childish huffing and puffing into literally making people around him fear for their lives. Just remember that the next time you see a kid having a meltdown in a supermarket. Now, there were some very notable things going on with Puffalompicus's transits on the day he was arrested. We don't know his houses, but we do have enough to make some interesting observations. First of all, the giant demon in the room is Pluto. And yeah, Pluto was crossing over his Mars around the time of his arrest. I'm talking like within minutes. So while natal Pluto represents control, abuse, and coercion, that transit Pluto represents putting his Mars in handcuffs. Pluto crossing over planets or sensitive points in our charts can bring traumatic events, painful changes, and major crises in our lives. You may recall that the famous comedian Russell Brand had some pretty severe rape allegations that emerged in fall of 2023. That's when Pluto was crossing his ascendant. Brings out the old skeletons, doesn't it? I'm having Pluto cross back and forth over my ascendant now, and I promise you, it's pretty wild. On top of that, the Sun has been conjunct his natal Pluto, which is like shining a light on his hidden depravity. Doofy Poofy was also having his Venus return. You see transit Libra Venus literally on top of his natal Venus within minutes. This is usually an auspicious time, but based on what houses Venus rules, it's not always fun. Then Saturn has been hanging out with his natal North Node here, which can be an indicator of some incarceration in the cards, perhaps. And if that wasn't enough, the Moon's South Node was exactly conjunct his natal Uranus. Could that be a surprise exposure of past dubious behavior? And Mars was also square his natal Uranus. That's surprise battles and conflicts. But really none of this was a surprise. According to Plop Daddy, he was going to turn himself in. Sure, Scorpio Mercury. Sure you were. Now remember, when I give interpretations of these placements, I'm speaking in generalities within the context of a very disgusting situation. If you have a Scorpio Mercury, or Mars trine Pluto, yeah, I feel bad for you. But it doesn't mean you're a bad person, or that you would ever hurt anyone else. You see, I don't want you looking at people's charts and then calling the cops. Hello, 911. My name is Karen, and I'd like to report a Mars square Saturn. Physical description? Oh, I think you know what he looks like. Yeah, don't do that. There are good people with every placement imaginable. And there are evil people with all those same placements too. Like Martin Luther King Jr. famously said, judge someone not by the contents of their charts, but by the severity of their criminal charges. Wait, he didn't say that. Seriously though, these charges and allegations are absolutely repugnant, unimaginable, and virtually inexpressible. But apparently I had to express them in a video to get clicks and likes and views and all that sort of thing. So obviously I have dubious motives too. I hope this was interesting and informative and that it wasn't too upsetting or triggering. You know I love you. Thank you for watching. Like this video and subscribe to my channel. And make sure to click the bell when you subscribe so that you get notified when my new videos drop. And I do the best readings. It's science. You can book through my website, saturngirl.org. And if you can't afford a reading right now, come to my live streams and get one for free. But you have to be subscribed to get notified about them. And please consider tipping me. It helps me make such wonderful content. You can give through super thanks below or become a member of my channel. And remember, I love you. You're beautiful. And have a wonderful, whatever it is you're having.